Auburn is set to kick off versus Baylor in just about a week. But how many quarterbacks is Hugh Freeze going to play? Welcome on into the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. I'm your host, Mike G. Turn us up, turn us all, turn it out. I'm here with my good friend Taylor Davis, sideline reporter for ESPN. She joins us, as she does from time to time, yearly. You're a busy gal, but I appreciate you taking some time to talk a little Auburn football on today's show. On today's show, we're going to talk a little bit about the quarterback situation on the Plains. Lots of misinformation out there. And in the second half of the show, we'll talk about expectations in Hugh Freeze's third year from Taylor's point of view. Taylor, let's start at the top. Hugh Freeze made some comments about possibly seeing all three quarterbacks, and the media, especially the Baylor media, ran wild with it. I think is what he said was taken out of context. I expect that we're going to see primarily Jackson Arnold, and the way I took it was situationally there may be packages for the other quarterbacks for them to use them in specialty situations. But what was your handle on his comments about the QB situation?
Honestly, it's just been par for the course how this offseason has gone in the media and from a PR perspective. Everything that he has said, it's been like a dog with a bone. People will not let go, and they are taking it to an extreme. And I think that this quarterback comment is falling into that category. I didn't even flinch when I heard it, to be frank. The question was posed, could we see all quarterbacks? He said, yeah. Why wouldn't he? Why would you not give your opponent the seed? There is a potential that you are going to see these other two guys. So now Baylor defense, you better go watch Stanford tape. You better dig up some Deuce Knight High School footage because you may be seeing him. I don't think there's a world in which that is part of the game plan. Not only are you hitching your wagon to Jackson Arnold in Auburn media, you brought him to SEC Media Days. You don't do that if there is any potential that there is still a quarterback competition happening. Now, in the same vein, I think that they do see a lot of potential. Obviously, they think Deuce Knight is the future. You got to play that right. You got to play that in a way that a guy like Deuce Knight isn't entertaining the potential of leaving, which is still a very real possibility in college athletics these days. And a guy like Ashton Daniels has played big power forward ball. So you're not going to say it's an impossibility. If you rule out the potential of either of those guys playing, why on earth would they be there in the first place? There's always that potential. I don't think that there was anything to read into with that. I think, unfortunately for Hugh Freeze, or maybe fortunately, we could get into thing that he is saying right now. People are looking for ammo as to why Auburn isn't going to have a good year. I think for the past 4 years, Auburn has headed into season with optimism. And by the end of it, heck, by halfway through, you regret having optimism because the season has fallen away in brutal fashion. I mean, last year, the ways in which they lost games last year made you want to bash your head against the wall.
Yeah.
So you regretted having any positive expectation of season because it made it hurt that much more. So I almost think that because people have no idea what to expect from Auburn this year, they're just already going to go on the side of, this guy isn't the guy to coach. This quarterback isn't the guy to lead us. So now we're looking for any ammo to feed that narrative. But hey, for all we know, we're all playing checkers and Hugh Freeze is playing chess. And he's like, you know what? Fine. If you're going to be up in arms that I went and played golf in June, if you're going to read into me throwing a visor and coaching hard at practice, then yeah, I'm going to say that we're playing three quarterbacks in game one just to let you run with it a little bit more. Because what you're not doing is fixating on our scheme, on our personnel. You're talking about the drama, and that's fine with me.
Well, I'll tell you, there was a belief last year that Auburn did not have the personnel to run the type of scheme fully that Hugh Freeze wanted to run. This year, they think they're a lot closer to what that actually looks like. He talked about Jackson Arnold. Taylor, he said, I thought he was a freak coming out of high school. I think he's a freak athlete now. And they think they can open it up with him. And you've got the wide receivers. You stacked the deck around your quarterback. They beefed up the offensive line. They've got the wide receiver room everybody wants.
Yes.
Let's keep it a buck. Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton Jr., Malcolm Simmons has been cleared. to
Freaks.
play.
They're
And then
all
you've got,
freaks.
yeah, right. And then Perry Thompson on the
Very
other side. What else do you want? If all those guys are going game one, and there's hardly any tape on them at
correct.
Auburn. So
Correct.
to prepare for if you're Baylor, and Hugh Freeze is just giving them more to prepare for with his comments. I like where you're going with that. And sticking with the passing game, it's been underwhelming the first couple of years on the Plains. But again, what's your beat on Jackson Arnold as quarterback and the expectations on him this season? I got to believe, again, you don't bring all these receivers here to run 12 personnel and do what they did the first 2 years. I expect to see some 4 receiver sets out there and Hugh Freeze opening it up with Jackson Arnold.
I mean, look, Hugh has made a lot of comments for the past couple of months that the run game from the quarterback position and the RPO have taken massive steps forward. If anything that he has been still critical of, it's the pocket passing. But you don't bring a guy like Jackson Arnold in to be a stereotypical pocket passer. That's not his MO. You go back and look at his season last year at Oklahoma, which was underwhelming, I'll be honest, and there were a lot of factors at play. He ran all over Alabama. They defeated Alabama. He had 131 rushing yards. So that is part of his game. And I think it's arguably one of the better parts of his game. But the passing game has to evolve. And you hate to put so much emphasis on the same position, but I'll be frank, I don't think Auburn has hit on the quarterback position in a really long time. Even if they have had arguably a quality guy, I point to Bo Nix as my last example. It was mismanaged to the point that even he couldn't play to his full potential. I don't think Auburn has accurately handled the quarterback position in a really long time, and it has had a direct correlation to the win and loss column. I think that narrative will be the same. They have to hit at the quarterback position, but I also look to the offensive line. I don't think that there has been enough emphasis on that. The way that they have talked about this unit this year, I have not heard as positive of feedback in like a decade. I'm not joking. I mean, like, it has been a really long time. Not saying that they're perfect, and some of them weren't there in the spring. So this is a unit that is still actively gelling as we count down to kickoff. They're still building that chemistry, which is incredibly important. But the personnel, the depth, the athleticism, this is the most, gleaming offensive line that Auburn's had in a long time. So as much as I hate to say it, because I said it last year with Peyton Thorne, Jackson Arnold doesn't have to be perfect. Jackson Arnold just needs to get comfortable. And I think any potential concept of having a multi-quarterback carousel system in week one would be a crazy detriment, which is why I'm baffled that many people believe it. This is a guy who Hugh Freeze has said for months needs to get his confidence back. You gonna do that by pulling him week one? Like, come on, y'all. And this offensive line needs to get timing and chemistry and rhythm down, and then let these receivers go ball. Let these receivers do what they're capable of doing, not just route running. We're talking about yards after catch. These guys are impactful with the ball in their hands. So I think that all of those pieces at play are going to do just that. They are going to build Jackson Arnold's confidence. And I think the week one situation is perfect for him. I don't want him to have a Jordan-Hare, South Alabama game week one. I want him back in his home state of Texas playing on a Friday night. He said at SEC Media Days to go back and play a Friday night football game in Texas. That's my comfort zone. Let this guy go get his confidence back in a setting like that and then see where the season evolves. But I really feel that the offensive line is going to have a lot to do. They have to hit at the quarterback, don't get me wrong. But the offensive line is going to have way more of an impact on the trajectory of season than people are talking about.
Yeah, for what it's worth, the offensive line at Oklahoma was a mess last year.
Abysmal.
Yeah, along with the wide receiver room, every receiver got hurt. They were down there.
They'll tell you that themselves. Yeah.
Brett Venables at SEC Media Days was that Jackson was not at fault for the mess that was their offense last year. Hell, they even fired their offensive coordinator mid-season. So a lot of factors working against Jackson there. The confidence thing, I think a lot of people took that all way too far as well too. He said the purpose is for the quarterback to leave practice with confidence. Look, if that's how they manage QBs, That's how they manage QBs.
Sure.
I don't. They're going ones on ones now, so he's seeing the toughest of the tough now in game prep.
Exactly.
Taylor, look, all this has to culminate in something uh, at the end of the season, and that's something hopefully still sees Hugh Freeze employed as Auburn's head coach. We're going to talk about expectations for the season right after a
Cool.
quick word from our sponsors. This episode of the Auburn Express is brought to you by our friends at the Vibe Vault. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Suite E in Phoenix City, Alabama. That's right across the street from the Chattahoochee Valley Community College, next to Renfro's Supermarket and Marco's Pizza. The Vibe Vault. If you're in the Columbus, Phoenix City area and you're looking to get fresh for the weekend, get fresh for the weekend with the Vibe Vault. Not just barbers, lifestyle consultants. This episode of the War Report is brought to you by friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. Also want to thank our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Visit goldenscastiron.com/WR. Use code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off your weights. Code TWR for $65 off fire pits and Kamado grills. You want to be outside this fall grilling with your family or staying in shape with some Golden's Cast Iron weights. Work out, grill out, chill out with Golden's Cast Iron. Also want to thank our friends at setsforsociety.ai. Do you want to get to know yourself a little better? Maybe be a better coworker, better teammate, better partner? Setsforsociety.ai has custom personality assessments that let you know a little bit more about yourself, how you relate to a team, how a team can relate to you. Visit setsforsociety.ai today to get your custom personality assessment started. Sets for Society. Taylor, let's jump back in here. I got to get some takes from you. I get you on the record here. I'm going to hold your feet to the fire about expectations for the season. Yeah. There is an ongoing conversation about where the floor and ceiling is for this team. There are some in the national media that, Josh Pate thinks that Auburn could make the playoffs or miss a bowl game. I got to believe that the floor cannot still be miss a bowl game in year 3. You did that last year. You made one the first year, but you lost it. Talk to me about what the expectation for this team should be. I think 8 wins sees Hugh Freeze comfortably in the driver's seat for year 4. Anything under that, in my opinion, nothing should be off the table.
Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, I think that the floor, kind of like Josh Pate was saying, it could be that Auburn misses another bowl game, but that won't be without major changes. And I'm not necessarily saying that that's warranted. That's above my pay grade to have any kind of insight on decisions like that. But I think the reality of an Auburn, in terms of resources, in terms of tradition, in terms of the landscape of college football and the way it sits right now, they don't feel they should have to wait much longer. And year 3 should be a pivotal year, especially when you're looking at, you've got consecutive top 10 recruiting classes. You've been crushing. One thing I really want to give credit to, they are crushing in-state recruiting. And that is not an easy thing given the dynasty that Alabama has been. The in-state recruiting has been incredible. And the level at which they've recruited, I think the transfer portal gets have been impactful. You still look for development, though. And I think that a lot of the ways that, like I said, Auburn lost games last year really made you confused with the coaching staff, because you're leading the SEC in turnovers the past 2 seasons. That's on coaching. Now some of it is really good play, right? A defender punches the ball out perfectly, or a corner reads a pass play perfectly. You can't do anything about that. But some of them, it's lack of discipline. Some of it, it's lack of accountability. And so some of that has to tighten up. Another thing that was a big impact last year that I think people kind of forget was the kicking situation. I mean, there were a couple games that would have gone the other way had our kicker been healthy. So I also want to bring light to that. But I think that the reality of insane amounts of pressure on this coaching staff in year 3 is realistic. And it's the nature of where we are. I mean, Brian Kelly is being held to it as well. Year 3 at LSU. It feels like if they don't reach the national championship, they're calling for his neck. And they're coming off a much better season than Auburn. So, unfortunately, in the SEC and in college football, I think the expanded playoff made fans even less patient. I think it's making you feel year in and year out like you could end up being in that postseason play. And Auburn has every reason to have hope that they could. And so if it falls apart at the seams yet again, there's nowhere else to point your finger other than the coaching staff. And that's just the reality of it. I think the coaches know that, though. They're not under any false pretense that performance is not going to dictate their stance. Now, I do think that the way in which you win and lose are different things. There is context to every win and there is context to every loss. And those have to be taken into account as well. But if the turnovers continue to be an issue, the biggest thing that raised my eyebrow in this media frenzy that has been the offseason was the discussion of the play calling system. Didn't really sit well with me. Why we got 85 cooks in the kitchen? We just need one. You know what I mean? Maybe one, a little sous chef. But like, we don't need 65 people. But you gonna take my opinion from the sidelines? Like, there's just so many. And you're asking with a new quarterback. Let's also keep in mind, you lose a guy like Jarquez Hunter. Any other football program, that would be the main storyline in the offseason. But we have so many other things that we're talking about that, like, replacing his production is like an afterthought. Now, granted, you feel still pretty good about the running back room, but to have a new quarterback, you don't necessarily have the same level of just hand it off and let him get those tough yards. I think Damari Alston is very capable and Jeremiah Cobb, and the transfers seem to be making a splash as well. But that piece of it, a brand new quarterback, some targets that are trying to get their, shine, they're all fighting for it. Let's be honest. You have 3 people potentially sending in plays. That makes me nervous. So comments like that, potential. My hope is that all of this is actually working to Auburn's advantage and people are starting to think things that aren't factual and the coaching staff is sitting there going, yeah, think that. The potential bad side of it is that they're trying to do a little too much because they also feel that year 3 has to be a huge step forward. And sometimes the more you do to try and prevent something, the more you hinder yourself. Whereas if you just relax and do stay the course and do what you've known to do, it does start to gel. So I think expectations are at the highest that they possibly could be. But when you look at it, like you were saying, from a personnel standpoint, and when you look at the schedule, Mike, I mean, this is one of the most favorable schedules that Auburn has had. I'm not saying it's a cakewalk, but you've got Ball State, South Alabama, Missouri, Arkansas, Kentucky. Wow, with the graphics. My guy's on it. Missouri, Arkansas, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Mercer. I'm sorry, but something really has to go wrong.
Win.
Auburn not to get those. Yes. Now Texas A&M and Georgia. Georgia coming to Auburn, as much as Georgia has had Auburn's number, coming to Auburn. And if you look at Georgia's schedule, that's their first real road test of the season. They're kind of lopsided and they don't really kick into high gear until that game. And so as solid as Gunnar Stockton has showcased to be, he's inexperienced for all intents and purposes. And so his first real road environment that he is the guy being at Jordan-Hare, which even Auburn haters will tell you that is one of the hardest places to play. You circle that one. You can't not, right? And then obviously ending with Alabama. But this is a schedule that allows you to really make a push. If you don't, someone has to answer for it because something will have gone wrong.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any such thing as an easy SEC schedule, but certainly this schedule looks like what Georgia gets in the SEC East. This is not an SEC West schedule. You lose LSU and Ole Miss off your schedule, and you pick up Vanderbilt in Kentucky.
Yeah,
come on, man.
In Missouri.
In Missouri, that's a crazy swap. Yeah. So going back to the schedule here, as you mentioned, if Auburn can get out of these first 6 games 4-2, that stretch from Missouri to Mercer, I've been saying it every show, is the most winnable stretch of Auburn football I've ever seen on the schedule.
I agree.
Right.
I agree.
4-2, and then you could be a 9-win team headed into the Iron Bowl with a chance to not only make the playoffs, but possibly keep Alabama out in the same game.
Yeah.
Come on. This
Give
is
an Auburn fan or player more motivation than that, please. What's also going to be interesting, though, looking at this, the first SEC game is against Jackson Arnold's former team.
Yeah.
You let this guy go to Texas on a Friday night to open the season as your QB1, establish something, and then no disrespect to Ball State or South Alabama. I mean, lest we not forget New Mexico State. So ain't nobody looking past anybody anymore. But for all intents and purposes, that should be the opportunity to really fine-tune some things. And then you open SEC conference play with his former team. Like, it is set up. There is a framework here that Auburn does, in fact, make the playoff. Like, it is not a far-off concept. Lest we not forget, this is a football program that has literally gone from a national championship to 4-8. You know, things can change quickly at Auburn. It's an unfortunate reality of things. You know,
and it's usually the way it goes, Taylor. I mean, 2012, 3-9, 2013, all the way
magical
to the
season.
title. Yeah, look, that, as you mentioned, that Oklahoma game. I think here's the script for Auburn: beat Baylor, go into Oklahoma 3-0, and then win one of your first 3 SEC games. One.
Yeah.
Whether it's a road game or if you know, like I had Georgia as an L on my schedule. Like we've had just
hard
terrible.
Not to.
Yeah, just until further notice, L. But beat either Oklahoma or Texas A&M, and then you're in great shape headed into again that stretch that we talked about where they should be able to win all those games. Look, before we get out of here, give me a schedule prediction. What do you see for Auburn here? I've got the Tigers going 9-3.
Okay.
I think they get it done in that first 6-game stretch and do exactly what we said. There will be one loss that has us scratching our heads.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, so I hope it's not Vanderbilt again, but there's going to be one, and I think that there's going to be one of these teams that nobody expects anything from in the SEC is going to have a surprise season. So, it happens every year. But you know what? Before we get to your schedule prediction, I do want to address something you said about the expectation changing with a playoff. Heather Dinich, your colleague Heather Dinich at ESPN said before last season that she thought 5 teams would get in. Now, 5 teams didn't get in, but 6 teams had an opportunity to get in.
Right.
I think the precedent has been set. 10 wins from the SEC and you're in the playoff.
Yep.
9 wins and you're on the outside. Alabama, Ole Miss, Missouri, South Carolina, all 9 wins last year, all missed the playoff. And the most egregious of those was Ole Miss because they had the easiest schedule. Yes. I mean, they should have been 6-0 going into Game 7, and losses to Kentucky and Florida unacceptable. For Lane. I mean, I don't know how Lane Kiffin keeps getting a pass every year. He had the best quarterback in the SEC, I think, in my opinion, in Jackson Dart. And they couldn't make it with that schedule. Come on.
I know.
So if you're Auburn, you've got that kind of schedule this year. I don't think it's as easy as that Ole Miss schedule was last year, but damn it, Taylor, this is the opportunity. This is a gift in year 3 for Hugh Freeze, given how the first 2 years went.
Exactly. And what I also think is interesting is the South Carolina argument, because while their wins and losses made it kind of easy for the committee, according to their stance, when you looked at their losses, because like I said, there is context to every win and there is context to every loss. Some of their losses, that 3-point loss there at the end to LSU because Lenora Sellers was injured and had to leave and Robbie Ashford came in, right there at the end to Alabama. Like, so many of them slipped right away at the beginning of season. And then they went on a tear the latter half of season, beating Clemson at Clemson, who went on to win the ACC championship and automatically get a top 4 spot. I'm so glad that situation changed and we are no longer automatically seeding conference champions in the top 4, because that did not make any sense. But the argument of the committee that essentially by the last week of season, they weren't really looking to change the seeding all that much. So as much as we think the beginning of season, there's some wiggle room, you have to make a mark immediately. Starting week 1, your narrative has to be established and you grow from it. There are going to be dips. It's inevitable. But some of those losses could be argued in South Carolina's favor over some of the ones that got in, but the committee wouldn't hear of it. So agreed with you that the way that Auburn's schedule sets up right now, you can't just do the expected outcome. You have to make a statement in that expected outcome.
Who's the statement game? Like I would argue Hugh Freeze doesn't have a statement win since he's been at Auburn, right?
He
Yeah.
doesn't.
What would be the state? What's the most likely statement win for the schedule?
Georgia at home.
Georgia at home.
Yeah,
Okay.
people are still very high on Georgia. I think that, and this time of year is always so weird, Mike. Like, we all need kickoff so flippin' bad. You know what I mean? Like, we're all spinning our wheels trying to read into everything. But even fall camps, there's only so much that you can garner off of them going against each other. Like, I think that Auburn's defense is going to be incredible. However, they know this offense now. They know, like, hey, this is about to be a pass. I'm about to go ball. Like, there's an element of predictability when you're going against each other. That completely shifts when you finally go up against a team that you haven't seen before. I remember week 1 last year, or week 0, I guess it was, Georgia Tech upsets Florida State. Everyone had Florida State in their top 10 list going into season last year. No one knew they were going to be trash. Vanderbilt wasn't on anyone's radar. They end up having one of the biggest upsets in history against Alabama. North Dakota State had Colorado on the rocks. I believe they went into overtime week 0 last year. So literally, we know nothing at this point, and you have to allow them to go against an opponent before you really have a better idea of what the problems are and what the positives are. So I think that Auburn's potential to really figure that out against Baylor. I prefer that Auburn starts with a matchup like that rather than a small one. But I think the statement win could be Georgia at home. Everyone is still very high on Georgia. They have a ridiculously stacked roster and a good bit of continuity that could benefit them. But them going to Auburn is going to be tough for them. And if Auburn's gelling by that point, a rockin' Jordan Hare, I'd pick the Tigers. But they have to have some chemistry by then. If the wheels have fallen off by that point and Georgia pummels Auburn at home, we could be in for some drama in season.
Yeah, I'm not expecting that. You gotta remember that was a 2-score game headed into the fourth quarter last year with Auburn having the ball at midfield and a chance to make it a 1-score game. That was the infamous confusion on the call on the 4th down between Peyton Thorne and Hugh Freeze. So if they're on the same page this year, I do think that there's a chance. Again, I've got it down as an L for right now. But I will be more than happy to eat crow on that prediction if Auburn can pull out the win. Taylor, again, before we get out of here, I got to get a schedule prediction from you. What do you see for the Tigers?
I'm going 10 wins.
10 wins?
I don't know. I'm feeling optimistic today.
Taylor Davis going full book mode on us. 10 wins.
That we need to change, add like a little addendum to the Auburn creed. Like, we'll keep hope even when we shouldn't. Like, that is an Auburn fan through and through, right? Every year I'm like, I have every reason to believe that you're going to break my heart, but I choose to believe that you've changed. It's that toxic relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. That's awesome, Taylor. I want to thank you for joining the show today. Appreciate all your insights. Before we get out of here, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on social media, any platform at Taylor Beth Davis, and on the sidelines this football season, all over the place. Typically the noon game on ESPN or ESPN2 every Saturday with Roy Philpott and Sam Macho.
Guys, that's it for another great edition of the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. Do us a favor, in the comments after the video, tell us your schedule prediction and what you think about this schedule. And while you're there, smash that super thanks button. Your financial support helps keep the work that we're doing here going. We are the War Report on every social media platform, TW Report on TikTok. We're signing off, and as always, we're equal.